City Administrator Jensby.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. As we start the workshop here. Thank you. Mayor and Council, before Matt Long steps up here and goes through our budget and forecasting with us, I just want to go over a few things just so everybody is on the same page, because it has been a while since we looked at how the budget actually operates. So we essentially have 5 major funds within our budget. We have the general, the capital project equipment, the utility, the bond and interest, and the special funds. As you can see, the general fund is primarily used for funded by property tax. All the property tax that the city collects generally is used and goes into the general fund. The general fund supports operations of the city, specifically administrative, police department, the salaries associated with those, portions of the employee benefits, and city parks. Capital projects are funds that are primarily used and funded by sales tax. So these are your capital improvement projects, consolidated highway and street funds. We have our utility funds, and this fund is funded by utility charges. So all the fees that we collect from selling water, from sewer, from selling gas, go into the utility fund. Our bond and interest is kind of a special fund. It is established to account for the proceeds of bond sales and the other revenues allocated to these funds and the cost of projects financed by them. So what that means is, for example, last meeting and at this meeting, you will pass a resolution to issue temp notes for the financing of Huffman Drive and the widening of 61st Street. Those proceeds will go into this bond and interest fund so we can track those. And then of course we have special funds, and these kind of have special restrictions of revenues and different expenditures. Our land bank falls into this. ARPA funds, which we received, we have expended all those, will fall under this, and special streets and highways. So just kind of a general overview of what the funds are when we start talking about it, and if you ever have any questions about those, feel free to ask me. Yes.
Is this meeting being live streamed?
It is.
Okay, thank you.
So I'm going to call Matt up here, Matt Long, our financial consultant, and he is going to go over these funds with you. Just use this.
I just have a question as Matt's getting set up. City Administrator Jensby, will we be able to get a printed copy of all the information that's been gone over tonight?
Yeah, you should have. Oh no, you have printed slides for the presentation.
Yes.
Of the meeting, but yeah, we'll make sure.
Thank you.
Whoever wants them, just ask me and I'll get them, so we're not necessarily printing copies.
Yeah, I want it.
Okay. So we have our evaluation notices from the county. We're going to go over those, and then we're going to look at, essentially we're going to look at what a R&R budget versus maintaining your prior year mill levy would look like. And due to some factors we'll talk about, we'll see that there's not going to be much difference between the two. It's not nothing, but it's...
Matt, I'm sorry, if I could jump in real quick. I do want to add that in preparation of a lot of this budget material, I had a lot of conversation with Councilmember Hedstrom. And one of the things that he requested was that we really focus on seeing what we can do to reduce the mill levy for the 2027 budget. So through my discussion with him, my discussions with Matt, Matt did a majority of the work on this, all the heavy lifting. But I think as you'll see in the presentation here, you're going to be very happy with the results that we came up with and the possible recommendations we have for council.
So first, this form we see here, this is actually from the county clerk's office. It shows what the valuations are for this year, and then it shows what the revenue neutral rate would be. And some counties are nice and they actually give you like, you know, what the actual what the proceeds would be, and they show you that, but certain county just gives us that calculation. But I will verify that, you know, before we adopt it, these numbers are correct. But I've verified this in the past. And then again here on this comes from the bottom half of that sheet. It shows your delinquency rates. Delinquency rates for prior 2 years, 1.2 is very good. The state will allow you to include a mill levy, or excuse me, delinquency rate up to 5% above or below that number for budget purposes, but it's not going to be necessary, I don't think, for you guys. The actual tax rate, this is what, when you adopt the budget, you're adopting an estimated tax rate because, you know, there's still things that happen with the process of sending out the tax bills that will somewhat adjust. Your actual tax rate is only 0.001 higher than the what you adopted, so it's almost negligible. And the difference there, I actually did the calculation on, it was about $17 of additional actual property tax than what you would have had if it had been identical, which it never is. So here we're just going to look at the comparisons between. So when I have for 26 here, you got to remember the 27 budget uses 26 valuation for mill levy purposes, so that's why I have it as 26 and 25. The total assessed valuation for 26, 37,185, 091 is 4.31% more than what the valuation was for 2025. That is not a bad number. It's positive, which is a good thing. You're not losing valuation, but it's also, not as high as you've seen previously, and probably not as high as what we anticipate in future years. Your sheet slide there, your new improvements in 26 were less than half of what new improvements were in 25. Is probably leading to some of the slowdown in growth for 26. Comparison to what the R&R rate would have been last year was 34.596 versus 35.268 for this year. So again, you're seeing a lesser R&R rate, or a higher R&R rate, but less of a difference from the rate you anticipated, or what a baseline rate would be versus what you've done in the past. So again, that's really just showing that again there's slower growth than what you've done historically, at least in comparable history years. And then the very bottom line there, that's just value of 1 mil. It is more than it was last year. It's 37,085 versus 35,647, which again is not nothing. And basically the difference between the two is about $1,500. The value of a mill has changed. I know this is hard to read, but I hope you guys can see it up close there. Essentially, this is what a general fund budget is going to look like for next year. What we're looking at the 27 forecast. I would call it forecast, but it's actually the budget. What would be the budget once adopted, and that is just showing you what the how the revenues and expenditures will change. The only two big things that we should probably point out are going to be property tax. You'll see there that it's actually about $20-some more than what was we're estimating for 2026. So again, this is the revenue neutral rate, so that should be identical, nearly identical, and there's some percentage point there that's causing a slightly different number. And then the other thing we'll look at that's going to be the big change between this and the next slide is going to be that cash reserve at the very bottom of the expenditure line, and that is essentially fund balance being carried forward in that line. We put it in as an expenditure for budgeting purposes to get us to the desired mill levy. And again, that's essentially carryover fund balance. It's within the system that you have the ability to spend up to your full expenditure authority, but we keep it there for essentially to get the budget to where we want to put it. You could potentially drop your mill levy considerably and eat all of that up. But again, that's going to take away your ability to fund some of the projects you want to do and also maintain at least in the short term, maintain a fund balance is going to, adhere to the desired reserves you have going forward. So you're operating with, some months of reserves and ability to pay your bills if, in case something bad would happen. I'm not really going to get in too deep into the, methodologies for projecting next year's budget at this point because we're going to have more detailed presentations when you have your department heads come in and present their budgets, as well as we'll go into more detail on not only your general fund revenue, which besides the property tax, we actually have to figure that out on our own. But you're going to get better, like I said, you're going to get better information about essentially for the purpose of this exercise. We're taking, expenditures to date to generate our 26 estimate, and then anything else that we know that is not a regular expenditure that we're anticipating for the year. We're maintaining a full amount of the transfers that we budgeted prior year. I put in a cash reserve of $250,000 for the estimate for this year. That is, think of that as buffer for making sure you're not going over budget anywhere, but also think of it as money that can be used to transfer to your various capital projects, some of your capital funds that you use for you be using to finance bigger projects in the future. I know that the park system is a big thing that you guys have historically set aside cash for. This would be the kind of thing you can transfer out of there to use for that. We're basically building it into the estimate here, so we know that when we get to the end of the year, you're going to be well within your budget authority by the time the year ends, even after we adopt. The next one, and this is where I'm going to go over it briefly because there's not much difference here. This next scenario, probably have two computers for some wrong buttons, is now we're looking at what if you maintain your mill levy that you adopted last year, what that budget would look like. You can see there that property tax line goes up to 1.368, up from 1.311 without when you adhere to the revenue neutral rate, and the change to that cash reserve goes from what we had on the previous slide, and I have this all written out in the next slide, but it goes from 818,000 to essentially 874,000, which is essentially that difference in property tax generation. And here we have just a comparison between what the two will look like. Your R&R rate versus your maintaining the 2026 mill levy rate. The difference is 1.522 mils. The dollar amount difference is 56,561. Now,
Can I ask you a question?
Yeah, go ahead.
I want to make sure I heard you correctly. Could you repeat what you said about the gas reserve fund?
I didn't say anything about the gas reserve.
Oh,
Sorry.
I guess I missed what you said then.
I was talking about transferring to, but it essentially could also go into reserves if you needed to. Essentially that cash basis. That's what it was. I said cash basis reserve.
Okay.
So we're talking.
Yep. I was like, okay, here's something really
When
good.
I'm talking about cash basis, I'm talking about the fact that because we don't use the full government GAAP accounting. We use the cash basis. The way we carry money forward is putting it in an expenditure line like that for the purposes of getting the full amount of your mill levy. I apologize. But so basically, the grand scheme of things is that the difference between adopting your full prior year mill levy and adopting only the R&R rate is about $56,000. And you saw from our forecast that that's really not going to have an impact on your operations, nor on your reserves, nor on the capital projects that you guys are going to be wanting to do this year and next. So, and the reason that it's so much less of an impact than it would be in any other year is because the amount of growth for the year was relatively small. So you grew less than you normally do. So there's not that much more growth to take advantage of in levying the same mill rate. I, as a former city finance director, I have a hard time ever recommending you lower your mill levy just because I understand the irregularity year in, year out of operating a city and the things that can happen and everything else. But if I were going to recommend a year to do it, to adhere to the R&R, this would be it, because A, it's not as much of a drop from your prior year mill levy as normal, and it's just going to have such a small impact. It's about, like I said, it's about 1.5 mils, which again is not nothing. But I don't think it will have any major impact on your ability to operate in the budget year. My caution is, please, if you do this, remember that you don't get it back next year automatically, like you do, or which you did in the past. If you do want to go up to let's say the 26 mill levy of 36.790, it's going to be a bigger mill levy increase when you do that then. And also the sort of problem with R&R is that it's every year. So every year they're basically telling you, as long as you're growing, the calculation says if you want to adhere to R&R, you are chipping away at your mill levy every year. And for 1 year, for $1.5 million, that's not that big of a deal. But you do that 10 years in a row at just $1.5 million, which is I think in other years you're going to see it's a bigger come down than just $1.5 million. That adds up. So. I want to talk briefly about first of all, you don't have to make a decision on R&R tonight. You have to make a decision before July 20th, and only if you plan to exceed R&R. So that gives you, I believe your next meeting is on the 9th. Mm-hmm. Your next regular meeting is on the 9th. So we can do it then if you decide to exceed. If not, you can pass the resolution then to exceed. And whether you exceed, you still are not bound to that. You can still adhere to it in the future. You just have to take that first step. And if you do it, if you actually present a budget for adoption that exceeds it, then you have to have the additional. You have to have the additional hearing and all the rules and regs that go along with that. But you can still exceed it and then come back from it as you continue your budget decisions going forward. I just would say if you do not like this idea of hearing with R&R, you make sure that it's that July 9 meeting. I'd also like to do if they are comfortable doing it, then I'd like having the department heads come and present departmental budgets at the July 9th meeting. We'll have, at that point, I will have, 6 months of financials for 26 completed. So we'll have a, clearer picture of, I'm very comfortable with the numbers we presented for the estimate tonight. But again, we'll just be able to bolster them with having more operations. We'll have the second half of the second big chunk, of your property tax collected at that point, so we'll have a very good idea of what the actual revenue for general fund, how it will end up. There's some things you never could completely predict. Sales tax is one of them, but again, you guys have, you do use your sales tax for operational stuff, but we've seen fairly consistent numbers the last several months in particular, but over the last 2 years, they've been very consistent. We're still seeing good growth in your city sales tax. So again, that's going to be one of those things in the future. We may start building into the budget a additional transfer to your street fund that contains that, some or all of that city 1% sales tax, unless you want to put aside some of it for other infrastructure type things that wouldn't be part of your normal like street maintenance type things you do, or
I have a question on that. Sorry to interrupt you. That was voted on the people for the Arts and Business District intersection project, and there's 4 phases for that. We haven't even paid back phase 1 yet. And so why would that money begin to be put towards other potential costs for the city?
I mean, it would still be infrastructure type projects.
But that's not what was voted on.
So the sales tax is a general sales tax that was passed, earmarked for the intersection project.
Yes.
Correct.
And there's only one phase of that has been complete.
Correct. We have asked for phase 2
But-
to discuss.
Yeah, there has been no approval for any additional phases of that, which course, have to be presented to council, and
Correct.
we would have to approve those.
Correct.
But I think
So-
that what we're saying is, at this point in the game, we need to, as a governing body, honor what was done to what the people voted for. And at that time, yes, there was only one phase, but what had been presented to the residents was a 4-phase project. And until that changes, or until the people have a chance to say that they want to change where that money goes, I think we as a governing body owe it to the residents to honor the spirit of the law, even though we understood that it was not the letter of the law, because the letter of the law said that if we wanted to have it earmarked only to something specific, we would have had to do a sunset type sales tax, which would only go for 10 years.
Right.
And then after that 10 years, we would have to vote on it again and put the people through it. And we honored what the people spoke to and what we presented to them as how the sales tax would be spent.
Yeah, and you're correct, and those are decisions that the council as a whole would have to make for any future phases of that. What we are doing with the sales tax now is we are honoring that, and that is going directly to paying any debt for that intersection project. What happens after that, and that's a little bit what Matt's talking about, depending on the will of the council, we can use those funds for other infrastructure because it is a general sales tax. But we can't commit those to additional phases because those phases are just a pipe dream right now. We don't even know what they are.
But that information is what was shared with the people of Kechi for the vote. I mean, if you go and look at what is on the city website, it indicates it was a multi-phase project with approving this 1% sales tax. And the 4 phases are clearly listed in the Arts and Business District Master Plan, which was approved by the governing body.
Okay.
So it's
Well,
a discussion that needs to be had. So I'm assuming that we're keeping, I shouldn't say I'm assuming, are we keeping our sales tax portion, which is part of the whole county sales tax? Are we keeping those dollars separated away from the Kechi 1%?
So essentially,
Great.
what you essentially, how you functionally handle it is it gets deposited into the general fund when you receive it, and then we transfer it to a reserve fund, so you have it in, you can use it this year, next year, whatever. It's not gonna affect your budget authority. So, for argument's sake, it's not this much, you get $1 million this year in sales tax. You transfer $1 million to your capital improvement fund, or if you wanted to set up like a capital street fund or something like that did not have a annual appropriation you had to adopt because and budget for.
Mm-hmm.
Otherwise, so when you transfer out that, it becomes cash that you can use as bills come due. So it's something that, phase 2 starts next year. You'll be able to use part of what you collected so far to spend on phase 2, and you're not losing it to budget authority in next year because it's not a budgeted amount.
We still have to pay for phase 1.
Whatever.
Yeah.
What I'm saying is transferring it
Yeah,
to a capital fund of some kind gives you the flexibility to spend it when you need to spend it. You're not tying it to a regular, you're not tying it to your budget year.
So, but currently, that money is actually put in a specific line item fund. It's when it's received.
It's in its own.
Okay.
It's in its own line item. So
Right.
it's tracked separately from your other sales tax. And when I build out the full budget book, you'll see where it's collected.
thank you.
But again, that's and allow me to just
Yes.
further
Yep.
talk about what I was saying. When I'm saying that is when I say other, my point was that it's continuing to generate better revenue every year. So as that number increases and you're generating even more revenue, you'll have the opportunity in the future, not now, but whenever in the future, after all these projects are paid off, you'll be able to use some of that additional to set aside for other things. And it's not just going to rot in your general fund and go to, buying, the city administrator's Corvette and things like that. It's actually going to be used for, its intended purpose.
Yes.
So that was all. I was trying to say.
information was that it was in perpetuity. So,
Right,
it
yeah,
did not have a sunset clause.
right.
Yes.
And I'm not advising anybody on anything here,
Yeah.
but because even though it has a no sunset, you still have the ability at any time to do
Yes.
that if you want to.
Absolutely.
But it's been, it's one of those things where if you did not see growth from it, it would be something to consider. Is this actually worth it? And you're seeing every year, you're seeing you perform better and better. You're bringing in more retail in the short term, which is again going to add to that. That's another 1% that's coming in from another in town revenue generator. And again, too, I see it pretty much everywhere that the compensated use portion, which is out of essentially sales tax collected outside the district, that's going up everywhere too. We're buying online more often, and they're able to actually collect sales tax more regularly from wherever you are physically located. That goes doesn't go to where you're buying from; it goes to where you live. So we're seeing more and more of that too. That was I'm not sure if it was pointed out to you guys when you initially passed your sales tax, but when I was working for the city of Goddard and we passed ours, nobody from the state even included that in their estimates for how much we would generate, that compensating use portion, and it ended up being at least 20%, especially that first year, it was about 25% of the total amount of sales tax generated, and then it's pretty much in parity now with the amount of sales tax that is generated in the city, or at least what. So it's a bigger and bigger part of your percentage of your collections. It's again going to be coming from. I think it's pretty split evenly between you guys too, between your point of sale and your outside the district sales line. So think about what you want to do with adhering to R&R, lowering your millage by 1.522 mils, or if you want to, go ahead and pass the resolution saying that you retain the option to exceed it. And again, I don't think you'll need to. And, as we get deeper into this, you may see that you want to. So again, that's still your choice as a council. Like I said, department budgets at the July 9th meeting. I have got to cancel a medical procedure I'm having on the 10th to be here for that. It's not a procedure. I'm having a scan that requires a day of prep before I do it. So it's not anything imminent that I have to do right now. But if you want me here and I would like to be here for it, and you have it, then I'll make sure I cancel that so I can be here for that. July 23rd. I guess we can leave it open for everybody discussion workshop. By the time we finish the department presentations, we'll have a completed budget document to give you. My thought, complete set of budget documents to give you. My thought was that after that meeting, you guys could take those with you. Any notes you make during the department presentations, you can evaluate, and then come back on the 23rd for another workshop to discuss any other changes you'd like to see, anything you have questions about, we can talk about then. And still you still have another almost another month before you're even allowed to hold your budget hearing. So you've still got plenty of time if you want to make any changes after that.
I do have a question.
Yeah.
Because there was no June 9th meeting, we were supposed to have a budget workshop that was for capital budget, utility funds, and special revenue funds. Is that being rescheduled?
Yeah, we will have that, excuse me, in July.
Yeah, we can do that at the July 9th meeting. I don't think it's going to be I don't think it's going to take so much time that we can't build it into that budget workshop.
Yeah.
So we can do that then as well.
Okay, so you're saying that we're going to be having a budget workshop on July 9th then?
That's what we're.
Yeah, that's what I was
Okay, so it wasn't on the agenda for tonight, so that's why I'm inquiring.
Yeah.
Okay.
I recommend you do it then. That gives
Okay.
you, I mean, the grunt work of putting your budget together is essentially done. Now it's time to tweak what
Okay.
specifics you guys want to see. So I think we can easily get it all then, and you get direct information from your department heads. We'll have all the capital stuff to look at as well, see how it fits into the annual appropriation, et cetera.
Yeah, and we have a very, for the most part, straightforward budget this year. We don't have any big projects that are going on. So budget-wise, it's a pretty simple budget.
So then you're stating too that July 23rd, we still have the option of a third budget workshop if it's needed. Is that what you stated?
Yeah.
Okay, great.
And I mean, I would at minimum recommend we get back together just to,
Okay.
You know, answer questions of me,
Okay.
or whatever else. I'd still like to have some sort of, you can build it into your regular meeting, so we're not having to get here early for it if you don't want to. 'Cause
So you're saying for July 23rd, it would be part of the regular meeting?
if you'd like, yeah.
Okay, great.
I'm just trying to, you know, not add additional.
So we have budget discussion within that meeting for the agenda. Thank you.
Any questions from that? Okay. Matt, thank you.
Right, I appreciate it.
Okay, any other portions that the council would like to discuss?
Do we want to discuss whether we want to have a neutral rate exceeding for the hearing? My feeling was, I would tend to like to go ahead and go through that process and to give us that flexibility.
I think we should, that would be my recommendation, so we go through the residential rate notification process, notifying the county that we could possibly exceed, that's what we did last year. And we can always come down from that, so it does give us flexibility in case something comes up right at the end and we need to change things. We don't foresee that right now, we really feel that we can stay revenue neutral and not increase that, but I think it's the responsible thing to do is, you know,
And so we'll make sure we're all on the same page with that.
So
Last year, was it that we would not exceed 2 or 1?
Last year we ended up with 3.6. I think we said 3.7 something.
That we would not exceed.
Yeah, that we would
36,790.
not exceed. What was it, Matt?
36,790.
well, that's what ours is now, but what did we?
No, that we would. I think
What was
it was
the
like
revenue for
What did
37.
we put in for
Last
the
year.
notification? I think it was
Pretty high.
I think it was
I think
as
it was
well.
2 or 3 high.
I think it was 3.
With no
Oh, yeah,
example.
okay, I know what you're talking about, yeah.
And if we are going to present that as a possibility, are we showing what we would be doing with that? Or are we just using that solely as a placeholder and have no real inkling to actually do it?
Yes, correct. We have no intention of increasing. It's just a safeguard in case something unforeseen comes up in the budget. We don't lock ourselves into that revenue neutral rate.
unless we, Teresa, want to present something that would cause us to.
Okay, well, I haven't seen enough to make me know where I would or wouldn't at this point.
There's not a lot of budget that's
There's
been
not a lot of budget
presented
that's been
for
presented.
comparison.
This is what we're starting with.
Right,
Yeah,
I'm just saying
I
that,
realize that,
yeah,
but
I would have
No,
no idea what
No,
they're,
what I was
what it would
saying
be
is
for.
if you have something that, okay, you know, a few years ago, I received a lot of public input that we wanted 24/7 police protection. So what I went in with is I would like that expectation. I know it's gonna cost something. Now we were able to do it without raising the mill levy by other things, but something like that. If you
Okay,
have
well-
something that you would like Matt to look at.
well, I did, and I brought it up before, and I'll bring it up again, is that I do feel like our non-police staff needs to have, we need to look at being more equitable on their retirement, additional retirement. I know a few years ago, we did it as, it's basically $1,200 for the year. But when we look at our police department getting 25% of their salary, I do think it's more equitable to those employees, as I have stated numerous times.
I think the way you want to do that is, I'm assuming what you thought too, was doing some kind of 457B.
Yeah, that's what it is, right? Well, it's, yeah, they're, like I said, we currently are doing that. It's $100, per month.
Right.
Or per payroll,
Payroll, so it'd be 2,600.
2,600, okay,
Yeah, and those,
so,
yeah, those can get funded up to, I don't know what the number is now, it's around $20,000, maybe a little more than that at this point, but, you know, combined contributions from employer and
Yes.
employee, or it's, that's how you would
Yes.
work it.
because it's different than the 457 where that's the employee's contribution, this was a city contribution, so, yes.
Staff does not have anything else for this workshop.
Okay, I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
No, we'll adjourn this one.
We're adjourning last time's meeting.
I move we adjourn.
Second.
Motion by Councilmember Hedstrom, second by Councilmember Brewer. All in favor?
All right.
We are adjourned. Thank you.